Admiral Kung Tai-ho stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Union and watched as another medal was pinned to his chest. The alien who gave it to him was tall and thin, with gray skin and black eyes that showed no warmth. Around them, hundreds of delegates from dozens of species clapped politely. Some whispered to each other behind their hands. "Another peace commendation for Earth," the alien announced. 50 years without a single act of violence. Truly, humans are the most gentle species in our union. Tai-ho smiled and bowed his head, but inside, he felt something cold and heavy. He was 62 years old. He had trained his whole life to be a soldier, to protect his people. But there was nothing to protect them from. There were no enemies. There were no battles. He was a warrior with no war, and the galaxy thought this was a good thing. After the ceremony, he walked through the station's long corridors. Aliens moved past him. Some nodded politely. Others looked at him the way a person might look at a pet. He had seen that look many times. It said, "You are small. You are weak. You are lucky we take care of you." On the other side of the station, Dr. Yoon Haina sat alone in the central archive. She was a xenanthropologist, a scientist who studied alien cultures and histories. For 3 years, she had worked in this vast library of knowledge, reading about civilizations that had risen and fallen across the galaxy. She loved her work. But lately, something had been bothering her. It started when she tried to access files about Earth's past. She wanted to read about human history from an alien perspective. What did the galaxy know about her people before first contact? The answer should have been simple. But every time she searched, she found locked doors. Restricted access. Files that required permissions she did not have. "That's strange," she said to herself. She was human. Why couldn't she read about her own species? She tried different searches. She looked for records about human warfare, human empires, human technology, before the aliens came. Every path led to the same wall. Access denied. File restricted. Classification. Omega Omega was the highest security level. It was used for information that could destabilize the entire Union. Why would human history be classified at that level? Hannah leaned back in her chair and thought. She was a careful person. She did not like to make assumptions, but she could not ignore what she had found. Something was being hidden from her people, far away. In the Grand Council chamber of the Union, Representative Park Ji-won was having a very bad day. She had spent 6 months negotiating a trade agreement between Earth and the Mineral Consortium. Earth needed rare metals for its industries. The deal should have been fair. It was not fair. "You'll pay 15% above market rate," the consortium leader said. He was a short, round alien covered in blue scales. "And you will accept delivery only when we decide to send it?" Juan kept her voice calm. "That is not acceptable. We agreed on market rate. We agreed on regular deliveries." Well, the alien smiled. It was not a kind smile. "You agreed? We changed our minds. What will you do about it?" Gi-won opened her mouth to argue, but another delegate spoke first. He was old and gray, a member of the High Council. "Representative Park," he said, "perhaps you have forgotten your place. Earth is a protected world. You do not make demands. You accept what is given to you and say thank you." The chamber was silent. Every alien watched her. Guan felt her face grow hot with shame, but she forced herself to bow. Of course, she said, "I apologize for my rudeness." She left the chamber with her head down. In her heart, something burned. She had been a diplomat for 20 years. She had always believed that peace was the highest goal, that cooperation was the answer to every problem. But today, she felt like a beggar accepting scraps. That night, on Earth, Admiral Tai-ho stood on a balcony and looked up at the stars. He thought about the ceremony, about the medal on his chest, about the way the aliens had looked at him. He thought about all the times humans had been told to be quiet, to be patient, to be grateful. His communicator beeped. A message from Dr. Yunhana, someone he had never met. She had sent him a file with a simple note, "I found something. I think you need to see this." He opened the file. It was corrupted, damaged, hard to read, but he could see the title clearly. Project Containment. Species 7291H. Human. His blood went cold. He read what he could. The file was old, written just after first contact 120 years ago. It talked about humans as a threat. It talked about their history of war, their weapons, their dangerous potential. It talked about a plan to neutralize this threat. Not through battle, but through control. Through erasure, the file was incomplete. Much of it was missing or unreadable. But Tai-Ho understood enough. The aliens had not saved humanity from itself. They had caged it. They had taken away human weapons, human pride, human memory. They had turned warriors into pets. He stood there for a long time, holding the communicator in his hand. The stars above him seemed different now. They were not lights of hope and wonder. They were the lights of a prison. Somewhere out there, someone had decided that humans were too dangerous to be free. And for 120 years, no one had told them the truth. Tai-Ho thought about Representative Jawan, bowing her head in shame. He thought about Dr. Hannah, searching for answers in locked files. He thought about every human who had ever been told to be quiet, to be small, to be grateful. He made a decision. He would find the truth. All of it. And when he did, he would make sure every human in the galaxy knew what had been done to them. The peace they lived in was not peace. It was a lie. And lies, Tai-Ho knew, had a way of ending. Sometimes with whispers. Sometimes with fire. He looked up at the stars one more time. Then he went inside to make a call. The awakening had begun. 3 weeks after finding the corrupted file, Dr. Yoon Hana sat in a small room on a forgotten moon. Far from the eyes of the Galactic Union, across from her was a holographic display, and inside that display was Echo, a rogue artificial intelligence that had been hiding in the edges of the network for centuries. "The file is badly damaged," Echo said. Its voice was soft, almost human. "But I have recovered most of it. Are you sure you want to know what it says?" Hannah's hands were shaking. She had traveled far to find Echo, had broken laws she did not even know existed. But she had to know. "Show me," she said. The display filled with text, images, and old video recordings. Hannah read and watched and listened. With each passing minute, her face grew more pale. The truth was worse than she had imagined. 120 years ago, when the aliens first came to Earth, humanity was fighting one of its many wars. The aliens arrived with ships that blocked out the sun. They said they came in peace. They said they wanted to help. Human leaders, tired of death and destruction, welcomed them with open arms. But the aliens had not come to help. They had come because they were afraid. Somewhere in the galaxy, there was a record of every species that had ever existed. The aliens had studied this record for thousands of years. They knew that some species were builders, some were thinkers, some were farmers, and some were warriors. Humans were warriors. Not because they loved violence, but because they refused to give up. They adapted. They learned. They fought against every enemy, including each other, and they survived. The aliens had seen what warrior species could do when they reached the stars. They had seen empires fall and civilizations burn. They decided that humanity could not be allowed to grow strong. The first part of their plan, simple: offer peace. Humans, exhausted by war, accepted. The second part was hidden: destroy Earth's weapons. In the first month, after first contact, alien ships secretly located and eliminated 70% of humanity's nuclear weapons, military bases, and defense systems. They called it helping with demilitarization. Human leaders did not know they had no choice. The third part was the most terrible: erase the memory. Over the next 50 years, the aliens slowly changed how humans were taught. History books were edited. Old records were lost. New generations grew up believing that humans had always been peaceful, that they had been saved from their own violence by kind aliens. The truth was buried so deep that no one remembered to look for it. Hannah finished reading. Tears ran down her face. "We were not saved," she whispered. "We were conquered." "Yes," said Echo, "and there is more." The AI showed her another set of files. These were newer, from the last 50 years. They documented something called the Colonial Migration Program. Millions of humans had left Earth to live on other worlds, believing they would start new lives. But the files told a different story. Those humans had not gone to build colonies. They had been taken. Their genetic material was being harvested, used to create hybrid workers and soldiers for the Union. Some were forced into labor camps. Others simply disappeared. The Galactic Union was using humans as resources. Hannah covered her mouth with her hand. She thought of her aunt, who had migrated to a colony world 20 years ago. She had never heard from her again. Far away, on Earth, Admiral Taiho received Hannah's encrypted message. He read it in his secure office, alone. When he finished, he did not cry. He did not scream. He sat very still for a long time, and then he called a number that very few people knew existed. A voice answered. Shadow Command. This is Taiho. Activate Protocol 7. We need to meet. 2 days later, Taiho stood in an underground bunker beneath the mountains of what was once called Korea. Around him were faces he had known for years, but had never seen together in one place. These were the leaders of humanity's secret military, the men and women who had refused to believe that humans were truly helpless. Operative Choi Mingi was the first to speak. She was a small woman with cold eyes and steady hands. Admiral, we have been watching the observation posts for years. The aliens have sensors throughout our solar system. They track every ship, every communication, every movement. We are in a cage, and they are watching us through the bars. I know, said Taiho, but cages can be opened. Captain Lee Sun-woo sat in the corner, his arms crossed. He was a freighter pilot, rough and angry. His ship had been attacked by pirates 3 weeks ago, and the Union had ignored his call for help. A human life, they said, was not worth the cost of a rescue. Elus died out there, he said, and no one cared. Not one alien came to help. They think we're animals. They do, said Taiho, because they made us into animals. But we are not what they think we are. We are what they were afraid of. He activated a holographic display. It showed images of ships, hundreds of them, hidden in the dark spaces between planets in asteroid fields, in places the aliens never thought to look. For 60 years, we have been building, secretly, quietly, using technology we stole and improved. The Union thinks humans cannot fight. They are wrong. The room was silent. Then Mingi spoke again. What about the observation posts? If we move our ships, they will see us. Taiho looked at her. Then we will have to blind them first. I want those posts destroyed. Quietly, before they know what is happening.
Oh.
It took 3 weeks. Minji led the teams herself. One by one, the alien sensors went dark. The operators reported technical failures, accidents, strange malfunctions. By the time the Union realized something was wrong, it was too late. The eyes that watched humanity were closed. On the last day, Representative Park Juan arrived at the bunker. She had been removed from her position after her protest at the council. Her career was over, but when she read the files that Hannah had sent, she understood that her career did not matter anymore. I spent my life believing in peace, she said. I thought if we were kind, if we were patient, they would accept us. I was a fool. Taiho put a hand on her shoulder. You were not a fool. You were lied to. We all were. But now we know the truth. The question is, what do we do with it? Guan looked at the ships on the display, at the soldiers waiting in the shadows, at the faces of people who were ready to fight. We tell everyone, she said. Every human in the galaxy needs to know what was done to us. Taiho nodded. Yes, and then we give them a choice. Submit forever, or fight for what we lost. He turned to face the room. The galaxy thinks we are afraid of war. They are wrong. We hate war because we know what it costs. But we hate slavery more. He raised his hand, and every person in the room raised theirs in answer. The secret was out. The truth was spreading, and humanity was waking up. The president of Earth was a quiet man named Cho Dong-yoon. He had spent his career in meetings, signing papers, and giving speeches about cooperation and hope. He believed, truly believed, that the Galactic Union was humanity's friend. When Admiral Taiho showed him the files, President Cho did not speak for a long time. He sat in his chair, staring at the wall, his hands folded on his desk. Outside his window, the lights of the city sparkled like stars. "This cannot be true," he said finally. His voice was hollow. "It is true," said Taiho. "Every word, every image. Our people are being used. Our history was erased. We are not partners in this union. We are property." The president closed his eyes. When he opened them again, there were tears on his face. "I have spent my life serving a lie. So have we all. But now we have a chance to make it right." Cho looked at him. "What do you need from me? Step aside. Give me emergency authority. Let me do what must be done." The president was silent for a moment. Then he stood and removed the seal of his office from around his neck. He placed it in Taiho's hands. "Save our people," he said. "I will tell the world that you speak with my voice." 2 days later, Taiho stood in the hidden shipyards of the Kuiper Belt at the edge of the solar system. Around him, ships hung in the darkness like sleeping dragons. They were beautiful and terrible, built by human hands using alien technology that had been stolen. Studied and improved. General Baek Yoon-ho walked beside him. The general was old, with white hair and a face full of scars from battles that happened before the aliens came. His grandfather had fought in Earth's last great war, and his grandfather's stories had kept the truth alive. "How many ships?" asked Taiho. 347, said Yoon-ho. "Destroyers, carriers, fighters. We have been building for 60 years. We are ready." Behind them, Engineer Shin Nari was giving orders to her teams. She was young, only 32, but she had designed most of the weapons on these ships. Her mind worked in ways that others could not follow. She saw problems that did not exist yet and solved them before anyone else knew to ask. "The alien ships are fast," she said, "but they have not fought a real war in 300 years. They have become slow and lazy. Our ships are smaller, but they are quicker. And our weapons hit harder." Taiho nodded. "What about their defenses?" Nari smiled. "I have studied their shields for 10 years. I know every weakness. When we attack, they will not know what hit them." On the other side of the solar system, Captain Lee Sunwoo was given command of a destroyer. It was called the Hammer of Dawn. He stood on the bridge and looked at his crew. They were young, angry, and ready. Like him, they had spent their lives being told they were weak. They did not feel weak anymore. "We are not soldiers," he told them. "Not yet. But we will learn. And we will teach the galaxy that humans do not bow." His crew cheered. Deep in the command center, Operative Choi Min-ji received bad news. One of her agents had been captured during the mission to destroy the observation posts. The aliens would question him. They would learn that something was happening. She reported to Taiho immediately. "We have days, maybe weeks, before they send ships to investigate. Then we move faster. Begin the broadcast tonight." That night, every screen on Earth lit up with the same image. Admiral Kong Taiho, standing in front of a flag that no one had seen in 100 years. The old flag of united humanity, from before the aliens came. "My name is Kang Taiho," he said. "I am speaking to every human on Earth and every human in the stars. What I am about to tell you will be hard to hear, but you deserve the truth." He told them everything. About the lies. About the erasure of their history. About the millions who had been taken and used. About the cage that had been built around them. For 120 years, we believed we were saved. We were not saved. We were conquered. The Galactic Union did not protect us. They controlled us. They took our weapons, our pride, our memory. They made us into something small and quiet, so we would never threaten them again. He paused. Across the planet, people watched in silence. Some cried. Some screamed. Some simply stared, unable to believe what they were hearing. But they made a mistake, Taiho continued. They thought if they took away our past, we would forget who we are. They were wrong. We are human. We have survived ice ages and plagues. We have walked on the moon and split the atom. We do not break. We do not forget, and we do not kneel." He raised his fist. "The Union thinks we fear war? They are wrong. We hate war. We hate it because we know what it costs. We know the blood and the tears and the graves. But we hate slavery more. We hate being told we are less. We hate watching our brothers and sisters disappear into the darkness." His voice grew louder. "Tonight I am telling you, the cage is open. The eyes that watched us are blind. We have ships. We have weapons. We have fire in our hearts. And tomorrow, we will show the galaxy what happens when humanity remembers." He looked directly into the camera. "They said we fear war. They were wrong. We hated war because we knew what we'd become when we fight. Now they will learn. Now they will see. Now they will understand why they were afraid of us." The broadcast ended. For a moment, Earth was silent. Then the silence became a roar. In cities and villages and homes and streets, people rose. They did not know what to do yet, but they knew they wanted to fight. Volunteers flooded into recruitment centers that had been empty for generations. Old soldiers who had hidden their training came forward. Engineers and scientists offered their skills. Dr. Yoon Hana watched the broadcast from her ship, alone in the dark between stars. She had started this. She had found the first piece of truth. Now that truth was spreading like fire. Representative Park Ji-won stood with Tai-ho in the command center, watching the reports come in. Humanity was waking up. "Are we ready?" she asked. Tai-ho looked at the ships on his screen. At the soldiers preparing for battle, at the planet that was finally remembering its strength. "No," he said. "But neither are they, and that is the only advantage we need." The darkness of space, the fleet began to move. 347 ships, carrying the anger and hope of a species reborn. The war for freedom had begun. The first battle happened near Jupiter. At the garrison that had watched humanity for 100 years, the alien ships there were large and powerful, but they were not prepared. They had never imagined that the quiet, peaceful humans would attack. Captain Lee Sun-woo led the strike. His destroyer, the Hammer of Dawn, came out of the darkness like a ghost. Behind him, 50 more ships appeared, their weapons already charging. "All ships," he said. "Fire." The sky exploded. Alien shields flickered and died under weapons they had never seen before. Engineer Shinari had designed these guns to cut through their defenses like paper. The garrison tried to fight back, but they were slow and confused. They had not fought a real battle in 3 centuries. In 20 minutes, it was over. The garrison was gone. Human ships flew through the wreckage. For the first time in 120 years, the space near Jupiter belonged to humanity. Word of the attack reached the Galactic Council within hours. The High Chancellor, a tall alien with silver skin and eyes like cold stones, listened to the reports without expression. "This is nothing," he said. "A desperate act by primitives. Send a punitive fleet. Discipline them," the Council agreed. They sent 200 ships to Earth. It was more than enough, they thought, to crush any human resistance. They were wrong. Admiral Tai-ho was waiting for them. He had positioned his fleet in the asteroid belt, hidden among the rocks and ice. When the alien fleet arrived, confident and careless, they flew directly into a trap. The battle lasted 6 hours. It was the bloodiest fight the galaxy had seen in 1,000 years. Human ships moved like dancers, quick and unpredictable. They struck from angles the aliens did not expect, used tactics that confused their sensors, and refused to stay still long enough to be targeted. General Baek Yoon-ho commanded the center line, his old voice calm and steady as he directed the battle. "Hold formation," he said. "Let them come to us. Make them pay for every step." The alien commander tried to retreat, but it was too late. Human fighters swarmed his ships like angry insects. One by one, the great alien vessels fell. When it was over, only 23 alien ships escaped. The rest were destroyed or captured. On the bridge of his flagship, Tai-ho allowed himself a small smile. The galaxy had thought humans could not fight. Now they knew better, but the war was just beginning. News of the victory spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, other species watched in shock. For centuries, they had been told that the Union was unbeatable. Now a species they had called weak and gentle had torn through the Yon's fleet like it was nothing. On a slave colony in the outer reaches of Union space, Captain Sunwoo led a landing party. He found thousands of humans working in mines, their bodies broken and their spirits crushed. They had been told that Earth had forgotten them. Sunwoo stood before them, still wearing the dust of battle on his uniform. Earth has not forgotten you, he said. Earth is coming. We are here to take you home. Slaves did not believe him at first. But when they saw the human ships in the sky, when they felt the chains fall from their wrists, they began to cry. Some fell to their knees. Others raised their fists and shouted. We want to fight, one of them said. He was old, with scars on his back and fire in his eyes. Give us weapons. Let us fight. Sunwoo gave them weapons. Pilot Osora was only 24 years old. She had grown up knowing the truth, raised by the secret military to be a warrior. She had never seen the lies, never believed she was weak. When she flew her fighter into battle, she did so without fear. Her squadron attacked a Union command station, a massive structure that controlled communications across an entire sector. The station was defended by hundreds of guns and dozens of ships. Sora did not care. She flew through the fire like she was dancing, her ship spinning and diving between enemy shots. Her voice was calm on the radio as she gave orders to her pilots. Stay tight, follow me. Trust your training. They reached the station's core and released their bombs. The explosion was visible from planets away. Before she left, Sora broadcast a message on all frequencies. We are not afraid. We never were. We were just waiting for a reason. On distant worlds, other species heard her words. Species that had been conquered by the Union, species that had been forced to bow, species that had given up hope long ago. They heard that humans were fighting back, and they began to ask themselves, if humans can resist, why can't we? A ship arrived at Earth carrying an alien named Krell. He was small and green, with large eyes and a nervous voice. His people, the Velans, had been slaves of the Union for 500 years, but they had never stopped dreaming of freedom. We have been watching you, Krell said to Admiral Taiho. We have ships hidden away, soldiers waiting. If you will have us, we want to fight beside you. Taiho took his hand. Welcome to the war. The Velans were the first, but they were not the last. Within weeks, dozens of species had joined the rebellion. The Union's power, which had seemed absolute, began to crack. Representative Park Ji-won worked without sleep. She contacted every neutral species, every government that had been bullied by the Union. She used her knowledge of alien politics to find weaknesses, to make promises, to build alliances. The Union is afraid, she told them. They have ruled through fear for too long. Now that fear is turning against them. The High Chancellor watched his empire crumble and made a decision. If he could not defeat humanity, he would destroy it. He activated a weapon that had not been used in 1,000 years, a planet dash killer. It was a ship the size of a moon, carrying enough firepower to turn Earth into dust. He sent it toward the human homeworld with a simple message, surrender or die. Admiral Taiho received the message and did not answer. Instead, he gathered every ship he had. Human ships, Velan ships, ships from a dozen species who had joined the cause. They met the planet killer in the darkness between Mars and Earth. The battle was terrible. The planet killer's shields were stronger than anything they had faced. Its weapons carved through their ships like fire through paper. For every ship that attacked, 3 were destroyed. General Yunho watched his fleet dying and made a choice. All ships, clear my path, he said. I'm going in. His flagship, the Mountain's Heart, accelerated toward the planet killer. Every gun on the enemy ship turned to face him, but he did not slow down. General, Taiho shouted. What are you doing? Yunho's voice was calm. What must be done? Tell them I didn't fear death. I just loved life enough to fight for it. He hit the planet killer's reactor at full speed. The explosion was brighter than the sun. When the light faded, the planet killer was gone, So was General Yun-ho. On the bridge of his command ship, Admiral Tai-ho stood in silence. Around him, his crew was crying. But there was no time for grief. The war was not over. Set course for the Union capital, he said. We finish this. The fleet moved forward, carrying the fire of freedom toward the heart of the galaxy. The Union's capital world was called Orvalis. It was a planet of glass towers and golden streets, built on the wealth stolen from 1,000 conquered species. For centuries, the High Council had ruled the galaxy from this world, secure in their power, certain that no one could challenge them. Now the sky above Orvalis burned with war. Admiral Kong Tai-ho stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the battle unfold. Human ships fought beside Velen cruisers and ships from dozens of other species who had thrown off the Union's chains. Together, they pushed through the orbital defenses like a fist through paper. Below, on the planet's surface, Operative Choi Ming-yi led a strike team toward the council chambers. They moved through streets filled with chaos. Alien civilians ran screaming as explosions echoed in the distance. Union soldiers tried to stop them, but Ming-ji's team was too fast, too skilled, too determined. Keep moving, she said. We end this today. On every planet in the galaxy, Dr. Yoon Hana's final broadcast was playing. She had spent weeks gathering the truth, not just about humanity, but about every species the Union had conquered. Now she showed it to the galaxy. Species after species saw their own histories for the first time. They learned how the Union had lied to them, controlled them, stolen from them. They learned that they were not alone. The Union told us we were weak, Hannah said in her broadcast. They told us we needed them, but they were the ones who made us weak. They took our strength so they could use it for themselves. Today we take it back. On Orvalis, the High Chancellor watched the broadcast with cold fury. Around him, his advisors were panicking, but he remained calm. He had ruled this galaxy for 300 years. He had crushed rebellions before. He would crush this one too. But when he looked out his window and saw human ships in his sky, he felt something he had not felt in centuries. Fear. A soldier ran into his chamber. Chancellor, they have breached the outer walls. They are coming. The Chancellor turned to face the door. If this was the end, he would meet it standing. Ming-ji's team reached the council chambers first. They blasted through the doors and found the High Chancellor waiting for them, surrounded by his personal guards. The guards raised their weapons. Stop. Admiral Tai-ho's voice came through Ming-ji's communicator. Do not kill him. I want to speak to him myself. The guards hesitated. Then, slowly, they lowered their weapons. They knew the war was lost. When Tai-ho arrived, he walked through the grand chamber alone. He looked at the statues of ancient rulers, the treasures stolen from 100 worlds. The symbols of power that had oppressed the galaxy foe are so long. The High Chancellor watched him approach. You think you have one? He said. You have only proven what I always knew. Humans are monsters. You are destroyers. That is why we had to contain you. Tai-ho stopped in front of him. You were afraid of us, so you put us in a cage. You took our weapons, our history, our children. You used us like animals. And now you call us monsters? The Chancellor's silver eyes were hard. If we had not stopped you, you would have spread across the galaxy like a plague. Your wars, your violence, your endless hunger. We saved countless species from your destruction. You saved no one, said Tai-ho. You enslaved everyone. The Valans, the Korathi, the Mindari. Dozens of species living in fear because you decided they were dangerous. You did not build peace. You built a prison. He stepped closer. But here is what you never understood. We did not fight because we love war. We fought because we refused to be slaves. We fought because freedom matters more than comfort. We fought because that is what humans do. We survive. We resist. We hope. The Chancellor said nothing. Your union is over, said Tai-ho. Your council is dissolved. From today, every species will be free to choose their own path. There will be no more containment. No more erasure. No more lies. He turned to Ming-ji. Take him away. He will face justice for what he has done. The Chancellor was led from the chamber. He did not struggle. He did not speak. He simply walked, defeated, into the history he had tried to erase. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed. The old Union crumbled, and in its place, a new galactic assembly was born. Every species had an equal voice. Every history was preserved. Every world was free. Earth became the center of this new order. Not because humans were the strongest or the wisest, but because they had been the first to stand up. They had shown the galaxy that resistance was possible. 10 years passed. Admiral Kong Tai-ho, now old and gray, walked through a memorial garden on Earth. The garden was filled with statues of those who had died in the war. General Yunho stood tall at the center, stone-faced looking up at the stars. Taeho stopped before the statue and bowed his head. "We did it, old friend," he said. "The galaxy is free." He heard footsteps behind him and turned. Fleet Commander Osora walked toward him, her uniform covered in medals. Beside her was a little girl, maybe 6 years old, holding her mother's hand. "Admiral," said Sora, "my daughter wanted to meet you." Taiho knelt down to look at the child. She had bright eyes and a curious face. "What is your name?" he asked. "Yuna," she said. "Yuna, that is a beautiful name. Do you know why we built this garden?" The girl shook her head. "We built it so we would never forget. So that children like you would know that freedom is not free. It costs something. It costs everything sometimes. But it is worth it." Yuna looked at the statues. Were humans always brave? She asked. Taeho smiled. It was the same question he had asked himself 1,000 times. He said, "We were always afraid. But courage is not about not being afraid. Courage is choosing to fight anyway, even when you are scared. That is what makes us human." Far away in the great library of the new Galactic Assembly, Dr. Yoon Hannah finished her life's work. She had spent 10 years building a new archive, a true archive, one that told the history of every species without lies or erasure. She typed the final entry and read it aloud. They said, "Humans feared war. They were wrong. Humans feared losing who they were. And when they remembered, the galaxy changed forever." She saved the file and closed her eyes. Outside her window, ships from 100 worlds flew through the peaceful sky, back on Earth. In the memorial garden, Taiho stood and looked up at the stars. They were no longer the lights of a prison. They were the lights of home. Somewhere out there, humans were exploring, building, dreaming. They were free, and they would never forget. The sun set over the garden, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. Taiho took one last look at Yunho's statue. "Rest well," he said. "The war is over. The dawn has come." He turned and walked away into a future that no one had dared to imagine. The story of humanity was not over. It had only just begun.